Tonight we've come to Cardiff for the first of our special election programmes in Wales, Scotland and England. Labour have dominated the political landscape here for a century, but now both Plaid Cymru and Reform UK are hoping for major electoral breakthroughs on May the 7th. And a new voting system in Wales means that no one party is likely to form a majority government, but any one of the parties here tonight could be part of a coalition government, so their policies could have real influence. Our audience members arriving here this evening reflect the general political picture across the nation, across Wales. Welcome to Question Time from Cardiff. Tonight's panel, the Deputy First Minister of Wales, Huw Irranca-Davies. He served in Gordon Brown's government before entering the Welsh Parliament in 2016. He says the rise of Reform UK is a threat to progressive politics and Welsh values. Rhun Iorwerth is the leader of Plaid Cymru, a former BBC correspondent and presenter. He's hoping to make history next month by becoming the first non-Labour politician to be named as First Minister. Another man with hopes of becoming First Minister is Dan Thomas, the leader of Reform UK in Wales, a former Tory councillor in North London. He's promising what he calls common sense policies to tackle a cost of living crisis. Darren Millar is the leader of the Welsh Conservatives. He says Labour is like a boa constrictor around the Welsh economy. He says he'd cut income tax while improving the NHS, schools and roads. Jane Dodds is the leader of the Welsh Liberal Democrats. She'd provide more money for social care and tackling child poverty, and says she'd be prepared to raise income tax if necessary. And the leader of the Green Party in Wales is Anthony Slaughter. He wants to freeze rents, cut household bills and clean up the nation's rivers. Welcome to our special election programme in Wales. Welcome to our panel. Good to see you all. Welcome to our audience here. Thank you very much for coming along. And of course, welcome to you at home. Now, we're going to start the programme just slightly differently because I want to give you a flavour of the kind of key issues that the audience has been raising with us through their questions and their comments as they arrived here this evening. So let's just start with that. Let's kick off with you, Hannah.
Hi, I'm really worried about the amount of people living in poverty in Wales. For me and my partner, we are on middle-of-the-road incomes and we still are making difficult compromises with the last few years of the cost of living crisis. But for me, what's more devastating is the 22% of Welsh people who live in relative poverty and have little to no money left over after bills and rent.
With Welsh politics more fragmented than ever, what government should voters want going into this election? Change, stability, or something different?
I'm a medical student learning in Cardiff at the moment. I'm going out on placement in our NHS and I'm devastated to see the challenges that they're experiencing and seeing many staff burnt out, working in understaffed areas and actually planning on leaving the Welsh NHS, mainly due to their working environments but also the frustration at the inadequacies that they can provide to patients.
How long will I need to live to see meaningful growth in the UK economy?
Right, OK. And that reflects what quite a lot of you have been saying to us this evening. Let's start with our first question, which is from John Farrier. Off you go.
With the UK growth slowing down and demand for public services rising, are politicians being honest about the trade-offs between taxation and spending?
Right, well, I've been looking at all your manifestos. Some have got costings, some haven't got costings at all, some sort of costings. Rhun, are you being honest about the trade-off between taxes and what you want to spend?
It was one of the big criticisms of both the main parties going into the UK general election in 2024, wasn't it? That there was a real dishonesty about a massive black hole that people like me said was in the UK finances. They denied it, and of course it turned out that, yes, they did find a £20 billion black hole as we warned. There is a real issue of a lack of finances in order to deliver public services well in Wales. To me and the party I lead, it's a number of things. It's been very ambitious but cautious in what you can deliver. Be realistic with people and say we've had to put together a focused programme on health and education, on childcare and on growing the Welsh economy.
But are
there are
you
other
being
things
realistic
that we put to
if
the other
Institute-
side.
Are you being realistic if you've got the Institute for Fiscal Studies saying you're either going to have to make cuts or increase devolved taxes?
Well,
neither of which you are acknowledging in your manifesto.
Well, we took our manifesto for independent assessment, and it came back saying, yes, there are challenges here, but this is achievable. And that's really important because that's where the trust comes in. You need to know that something is achievable. But does it mean that we still need UK government to play its part in giving us fair funding for Wales, giving us the £4 billion owed to us because of HS2 rail, allowing us to take control of our own natural resources in Wales through giving us control of the Crown Estate? Yes, but we have to do with careful government. And the kinds of mistakes that we've seen from Labour being put to one side after 27 years of Labour rule, we need to have a government that takes a different approach with honesty with the public, but setting a high bar too in terms of our ambition.
Dan,
so,
are you being honest about it? I mean,
we
because
are
when
being
it comes to
honest.
taxation, you want to cut a penny
Yes.
off the Welsh rate of income tax across the board.
Yes, and we've explained, unlike Plaid Cymru, who's got a very expensive childcare offer, which you've not explained, Rhun, how you would fund that. We have explained how we would fund it. So it would cost £370 million initially, and we can fund that by £145 million, scrapping a load of net zero subsidies, green levies, that kind of thing. We'll scrap those. That'll save us £145 million. We have 200 quangos in Wales, well over 200 quangos, costing us over £135 million. Again, we need to merge those, bring them in-house, need to change that. We're over-governed, and we can save easily £95 million on civil service pay restraint. So we've spelt out how we would fund ours, and we would fund our tax cut in the last year of our term. So we've got 3 years to make it. So it's a very credible case for making savings,
you say it's
which add
credible,
up, Fiona,
and
to
at the
just
risk of, hang on, you say it's
1.5% of
credible,
the budget.
but at the risk of sounding like a broken record, you're going to hear this quite a lot. The Institute for Fiscal Studies says you're going to have to make cuts as well, and you're not.
They
just
do.
being honest
They've
about
said
it.
that of every government, of every party. But let me just remind you, our savings.
And are they wrong?
Yeah, well, our savings
Are
only
they
add
wrong?
up. Right, they've got an opinion, as we're all allowed in politics, but it'll add up to 1.5% of the total £27 billion that's spent in Wales. That is a tiny proportion for savings. Most businesses, most households should be able to make that kind of saving if they want it.
Do you think you'll have to cut anything?
No, and I've got experience. I'm the only party leader on this panel who has experience in cutting tax and protecting frontline service when I was a council leader. No one else has that experience here. And actually, the First Minister, who can't come today, has obviously already bottled it and has given up on Wales because she's not attended this panel.
I'll let you answer that in a minute. The man with his hand up in the audience there.
Do you think it's realistic that the UK can keep affording or can keep living beyond its means? Like, we keep going on as if we're a rich country, and obviously we haven't seen much growth. And so it's about time that politicians started taking things seriously.
We need growth and we need efficiency in public services, and that's what reform is all about. And sadly in Wales, there's been not enough growth. We only have one homegrown FTSE 100 company in Wales. That is appalling. That's on Labour and it's on Plaid Cymru.
Let me hear a bit more from our audience. Just a little bit, just behind with the man with the grey top and the glasses. Yeah.
And just responding to something that you said, Dan, I've worked with the Children's Commissioner's Office in Wales, and I'm assuming that's something you want to cut. The Children's Commissioner's Office does vital work in Wales. We've got a World First Future Generations Act in Wales,
yes.
Something that happened because of something you want to get rid of. So how would you...
So we're not saying
Can
we
I
want to
finish
cut-
my
yes, of
question?
course.
How would you ensure that young people, disabled people, people living in poverty, how would you ensure that their voices are still being heard in government when you're saying bring them in-house, aka get rid of the people who are standing up for them?
No, so
Very briefly, Dan, one other people in.
we're not saying that we should stop doing what those bodies are doing. What we're saying is that the government should do it directly, and by doing that, you make efficiencies, you lose layers of management. All of these organisations.
The idea is that they are independent of government.
That's the problem. If they're
Okay.
independent, there's no accountability. Government ministers are blaming these quangos for failure
All
in
right,
policy.
let me bring some more people in the panel. Huw, first of all, where is Aline? She didn't want to come along tonight?
No, Elena is busy out there campaigning, and I'm her deputy, so I'm very pleased
And we're very pleased to have you here, obviously,
Thank
but I
you.
just thought you might reply to Dan's point there.
And it's my first
Okay.
time on the programme as well, so I'm doubly delighted.
So let me remind you of the question. Are politicians, are you being honest about the trade-offs between taxes and public spending? And yet again, you've got the Institute for Fiscal Studies saying you too, with your manifesto, will require cuts that you are not being upfront about.
We are being upfront, and we are actually saying what we will fund and what we will not fund. So, for example, we've got a proposal in here for a £4 billion new investment in a new hospital fund. Why can I say we'll do that? Because we've done it before with the 21st century schools. That was not far off the same amount of money. It was the biggest school building programme and college building programme this country has seen since the 1960s. So we have track record. And Dan, you're actually wrong in saying you're the only one in experience. We have lived through 14 years of Tory cuts to Welsh Government budgets, and we have managed those budgets and done our darndest to protect frontline services, invest in health, invest in social care. So within our offers, they are well costed, well funded, we know where the money is. We're not rushing at a childcare offer like Plaid Cymru are, which has been criticised. We're saying we will phase it in. We will bring forward another 20,000 childcare spaces. We will actually do 9-month onwards provision of childcare, but not on day one. We will phase it in. And why can I say we can do this? Because we developed the most ambitious childcare programme in the whole of the UK, and we will build it further, and it's costed.
You're making a great positive of the fact that Labour has been in power so long in Wales. Isn't that part of your problem?
Yes. It's the challenge in an election, without a doubt, because if you're the incumbent party, then what you have to say to people is, you can't expect the same for us. We're actually going to do more. Where do we go next? So what we've done with 21st century schools, we will now do with the hospital estate. When we come back in, we don't do just what we've done. We will move to pay our teaching assistants, those people who read to your children in school, who are only paid 10 months a year.
Let's not have a whole long list. I appreciate you all want to make your points,
the next
but
chapter.
I want to hear from the audience too. Yeah. Man there in the blue suit, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
The ONS said that this year, the benefits bill will exceed the entire income tax receipts for this country by £3 billion. Okay? If you don't get after that, and Labour can't, they tried and they failed to instigate a 5% cut in just the growth. But if you don't get after that, you are going to send this whole country to hell in a financial handcart. Okay? Everybody working with a job here, your entire income tax is being spent on the benefits bill.
And I just point out, obviously, welfare benefits are not devolved to Wales. That's something that is decided at Westminster, but I hear your point. I too noticed that statistic. Yes, woman there.
We constantly hear about this 20 million or 20 billion black hole that keeps happening and keeps coming up. If you were a business, you would be looking for those people to hold them account, possibly looking at prosecutions for that huge amount of money that has gone missing. You keep talking about it, but nobody is being named, nobody is being investigated with what they're doing with our money or what has happened to that money. Where is it? Who's done what with it?
Man here just in front of you.
Deform UK talk a fantastic game, but I wouldn't trust them with a knife and fork, frankly. They can't run a council in Kent without arguing with each other. Their leader has just become our top cryptocurrency salesperson this week. And one of their top priorities in Wales is to do away with the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Now, my average speed on the way here tonight was 7 miles an hour. So I don't know if Dan Thomas has ever driven in Cardiff, but of the top 100 issues that Wales faces, the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit is not one of them.
OK, Dan, I will give you a chance to respond, but I'm just going to go around the rest of the panel. So let's go back to the original question. Darren, are you being honest about the trade-offs between taxes and spending? Now, you are promising to cut the basic rate by 1p. You're promising 20 million extra pounds for farmers, refunds on tuition fees, an M4 relief road, and a third Menai crossing. And you're not suggesting any spending cuts. How on earth are you going to do that?
Well, it's not true. We have said that we want to cut spending, and one of the first things that we want to do is to scrap the increase in the number of politicians in Cardiff Bay. Because what
but that's not going to touch the size of all this, is it?
It's going to save us £80 million over the next 4 years. That's a lot of money that you could be spending on the NHS, on those frontline services, putting into school
OK, what
budgets
else? Because you know that's not
as
going to
well.
cover all of this.
We want to roll back the size of the Welsh Government civil service. You know, we're all paying an extra £160 million each and every year compared to what we were paying just 3 years ago for the size of the Welsh Government. That's too much bureaucracy, and we need to get rid of it. We need to stop the Welsh Government frittering away taxpayers' money on things for which they have no responsibility whatsoever. Overseas mini-embassies in exotic locations that ministers love to go and visit, by the way, need to go. They're not responsible for foreign affairs, not responsible for international development. So solar-powered canoes for the Amazon, I'm sorry, the Welsh taxpayer can't afford it. We need to spend that money in our schools, hospitals and public services.
And what do you say to the Institute
people,
for Fiscal Studies that says you've no credible plan for spending cuts?
Well, they didn't ask us about what we were going to cut. I've just set out some of the things we're going to cut and roll back. And another thing, by the way, is the £200 million which is being given to a loss-making airport in Cardiff, which is an albatross around the people's neck. Look, people are paying too much in tax in this country. We're paying more and more, and we're getting less in return. Taxes are up, unemployment is up, borrowing is up, energy bills are up, water bills are up, and yet the only thing that's going down is our growth rate. If we want to be a more prosperous nation and have the finance to be able to invest in our public services, then we have to grow the Welsh economy. And the one thing I will tell you that would be a disaster for Wales would be independence for Wales, which would cost thousands and thousands of pounds for every single person in this audience.
And that is the dishonesty right there. £1 billion black hole in their plans, £1 billion black hole in Reform's plans. That is the dishonesty that is undermining people's trust in politics.
And is there no black hole in your plans?
No, there isn't. It is achievable. That is the independent assessment.
OK, let me come to hang on, everybody. Let's bring Anthony, because he's not managed to get a word in. But Anthony...
This reminds me of that saying about two bald men fighting over a comb. Or just throwing these numbers around. And Darren, I think you might get part of
Well, listen, they're throwing their numbers around. The Greens, of course, are not throwing any numbers around. Can we have any costings from you?
We have numbers on our priorities.
Well, so you haven't provided any costings, and I'm a bit confused if you are going to provide them, if so, when?
I can tell you what the cost of our free bus travel for under 22.
But what about costing your manifesto overall?
Well, we've got priorities in the manifesto.
But you haven't costed them, have you? You haven't
the priorities,
costed what your manifesto is.
Priorities are costed.
But not the rest of it.
That we can do in the current situation. Rhun's absolutely right to point out the need for fair funding for Wales. But we have to accept that in the next 4 years, that's not going to happen. It's going to be a push from two parties at this table to get that, but we do have to operate...
It's likely to decrease, in fact.
We have to operate in the spending situation we find ourselves in now. But we've got things that we know can be done, other things that we are confident could be done. And I think saying we've got a costed manifesto and plucking figures out of the air, that's what's destroying faith in politics. That's why we're getting questions like, are people being honest with us? I mean, Labour talk about £4 billion for 2 new hospitals and doing up another one. They know...
Sorry, three.
Well, one new
West
hospital...
Wales, North Wales and one here in
one new
Cardiff,
hospital comes in. One new hospital comes in at £2 billion minimum. So
no, they don't.
So it's throwing numbers around. And
if you're not throwing any...
Most recent hospital is 400 million.
If you throw
400 million.
If you throw no numbers around, isn't it a bit like going...
We're looking at the situation where Wales is now, and the people of Wales are hurting. We heard about inequality, we heard about people struggling, and the two are linked. The gentleman at the back talked about the UK not being able to match things up. The UK is a wealthy nation. There is wealth in these countries. Those people aren't paying their tax. That's why, at a larger UK level, we talk about wealth taxes, making the millionaires and the billionaires pay their fair share to fix our broken services that they all rely on. Obviously, we don't have the powers to do that in Wales, but we're looking at the levers we would have, one of which is scrapping the unfair council tax, replacing that with a land value tax, which means people with vast assets in land will pay more. People struggling with the cost of living crisis, struggling to heat their homes, struggling to pay their bills, they will see a decrease in their bills because we've got to tackle these things. We can't... It's also a case of, these things, it's a wish list. I think the people of Wales are tired of politicians who've been in that building for 27 years and managed the decline, telling them that good things aren't possible. We have to be ambitious. We have to do the things that this country needs, and we have to make the wealthy pay their fair share.
Right, there's lots of hands. I just want to get round some of you. It's the woman there in the glass, the blue top. Yeah.
Going back to a point that you yourself, the Conservative Party leader, made about reducing the number of Welsh politicians, don't you understand how that could be a little bit concerning coming from a Conservative Party leader who, and the Conservative government over the last 14 years, has constantly been making cuts to Wales, and advocated just against Welsh independence. Don't you understand how that might be concerning, like stripping back our powers?
You know what? I'm proud of the last UK government and the settlement that it gave Wales. It left Wales with record settlements. Left Wales with record settlements. And for every pound spent on a devolved service, here's a fact. Here's a fact for you. For every pound spent on a devolved service in England, like the NHS and education per capita, Wales receives £1.20.
Same's true for
we
London.
receive £1.20, but we get worse results for patients and worse outcomes for our children in our schools. That's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. I'm not prepared to tolerate it.
I think there will be less politicians from some parties.
There's someone at the very back, and I can't... all I can see is you've got moustaches. I can't see what you're wearing. Yes, off you go.
I just feel Reform and the Conservatives have just come here and you're just pandering to the fingertips. You're here going, oh, we're going to cut net zero, we're going to slash all these new Senedd members. That would leave this country in absolute ruin. Scrapping net zero, Rhun mentioned, very briefly about the Crown Estate. Instead of scrapping net zero and leaving our country as a wasteland, surely you'd want to devolve the Crown Estate, regain 65% of our seabed. Sorry, can I finish? Regain the 65% of our seabed, over 50,000 acres of land, to promote offshore wind. Don't scrap net zero to try and pander to this right-wing politics. It doesn't make sense.
Net zero is impoverishing our country.
Yes.
Yeah, so to me, one of the most obvious ways of increasing our income tax revenue is by getting more people into work. I think it's one in 4 people in Wales are out of work.
Yes.
Of working age adults are out of work. Now, I'm a proud Welshman. I'm sure many other men and panellists are themselves. Where is our ambition for Wales?
Yes. Absolutely.
You know, we need pride starts with work. It starts at home. You know, we need to get people back into work, and you know, we all need to be contributing.
Okay, one there in the stripy top.
You just mentioned that we need to stop funding independence, and Lib Dems have also come out and said the same thing. I'm getting really frustrated because there are so many young people, particularly like myself, who have frustrations with Westminster, and you are ignoring them.
And isn't it interesting how in this election you have Reform and the Conservatives and Labour and now the Liberal Democrats battling between themselves to say how hopeless Wales is, how useless Wales is, how we should limit our own ambitions. Plaid Cymru believes in the future of our nation, and it believes in your ability to design that future for us.
Thank you very, very patient. So, Jane, forgive me for taking so long. I was trying to bring lots of audiences, but forgive me, it's been so long to come to you.
I just really want to answer that point, if I may, on our
And then I'll ask you to ask the original question.
Indeed, thank you. Just to go back to your point, we don't want a penny spent on independence because actually our public services need that money. If there's a political project that Plaid Cymru want, if they are in the government, then they can go ahead and do it, but not from government funds. And we're saying that's a red line for us. So just to go back to John's question on taxes, we are in... The Welsh Liberal Democrats are saying something very different. And I just want to say this point. The 2 political parties on this table who say they want to cut income tax and yet protect our public services are quite frankly lying.
That's not true.
Because that is not
It's possible.
At all. It is not.
It's alien to Wales.
Hang on, please let her answer.
If I may finish. Our public services are really up against it. And I just want to touch on social care, which is our flagship policy. We think that we need to put more money into social care to help our NHS. And to do that, we want the money to come from Westminster or the Senedd budget. But if it can't, we'll be really upfront with Welsh people and we'll say we want a penny on income tax, ring fence for social care to fix the crisis. Right now, there are 1,400 people in our hospitals in Wales who can't get out of hospital because we don't have social carers. That is an absolute scandal, and we want to do something about it.
So, if you were to, and you very heavily caveated it, I know, in your manifesto, but if you were to raise this extra money from income tax, it would be solely for social care. So there's other things that you want to do. There's a lot of promises that you are making. But you've also said, we don't foresee cutting anything. Really?
We're clear that the next Senedd will produce a government which will have a majority party which will need the help and support of other parties. That could be the Welsh Liberal Democrats. Our manifesto is about an aspiration, is about our ambition. That's what will be going forward in terms of the next Welsh Government and in terms of...
It's not a manifesto for a government, it's things you'd like to influence other parties with. Is that the way to look at it?
It is, absolutely. It is really important we get our childcare in place, we clean up our rivers. If we look after our rivers and our nature, They will look after us. And frankly, I think it's absolutely disgraceful that we're hearing about abolishing the net zero targets, because that is fundamental to us and our planet.
Let me just... I'm going to move on in a minute because I want to try and get another question. But I did say I would let you answer the point made by the gentleman over there. I think you referred to them as deform UK. Your words, not mine. But I wonder if you want to reply to that, and also the comments made about net zero.
I mean, the gentleman mentioned you can't drive faster than 20 miles an hour in Cardiff, and that might be true at certain times. It's a very urban area. But what we forget is that Wales is a very big place. There's rural roads, there's urban roads, and people need their cars to get around. And the default 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, the change to that was opposed by almost 500,000 people in Wales, and more people than voted Labour at the last Senedd election. There is a democratic mandate to reverse that. And on the £1 billion black hole, it just proves the £1 billion black hole proves that Plaid Cymru do not understand the difference between capital and revenue. Because if you look at their rationale about our budget, they cannot be trusted with the public finances. They do not know how it works.
May I ask Reform UK about the lives that have been saved through reducing to 20 miles an hour?
We don't know that's down to speed.
The data and evidence is there.
The data is there. The data is clear.
Let me answer.
How many dead people is acceptable?
100 lives have been saved and over 700 people have not got into hospital because they have not been hurt. And the collision rate in Wales has gone down 37% as opposed to England at 4%. So 20 miles an hour is making a difference to saving lives. And my view is if it saves one life, it's worth it.
So road deaths in Wales per population is actually higher than in England, and England doesn't have a default 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, actually. So there's a statistic there. And we don't know, with the current road death statistic, if the cause was due to speed. The data is flawed. The data is flawed. They're trying to justify a very unfair, undemocratic policy.
All right. I'm going to move on, take another question. Before I do, since I've got you here, Huw, I just want to ask you about something not related to what we've just been talking about, but there is a big story on the news today, which is that Peter Mandelson, news has just emerged, it's from a report in the Guardian newspaper, that Peter Mandelson failed his security vetting to become ambassador of the United States, but that was overruled by the Foreign Office and he was given the job anyway. Now, the opposition parties are pretty unanimously saying that if Keir Starmer misled Parliament, and he did say that due process had been followed and that he had passed vetting, if Keir Starmer misled Parliament, he should resign. Do you agree?
So, the story is breaking as we've come on here, so I haven't got the full details of it, but what I do understand is, so far from what I've read, that the decision was taken by the Foreign Office, but it wasn't raised up to the Prime Minister or to the Foreign Secretary either. So I think that does need to be looked at. The facts need to be understood on this. But can I say in all of this as well, because the focus is on Mandelson and what the Prime Minister has openly said he deeply regrets in appointing Mandelson to that role.
No, we're clear about it. I'm just saying, do you think if he misled Parliament, he should resign?
But simply to say as well, the focus also has to be on the victims here of Epstein. Okay. And we do take the focus off that too often.
Huw, I'm asking a very simple question. There is no question, no debate, I'm sure everyone would agree that the victims are at the heart of this. But the question has been raised tonight about whether Keir Starmer has misled Parliament. And if he has, should he resign? What do you think?
So the question is whether he was aware or whether the Foreign Secretary was aware. We need to see the facts fully come out because the story is literally breaking as we are sitting here in this auditorium.
Is it not a yes or a no?
So it's whether.
So do you agree? Should he resign if he misled Parliament? Yes or no?
So what I would say to you is very straight on this. Let's get to the bottom of the facts first of all and understand what exactly has happened, rather than leap to a conclusion. I do understand that all political parties will automatically call for the head of somebody. First of all, the thing is to understand exactly what
all right, you've made that point. Yeah. I'm going to move on and take another question. Before I do, I just want to say where we're going to be next week, because our special election programmes will continue and we will be in Aberdeen. That is also a very interesting political story there. And the week after that, we are in Maidenhead. So if you live in or near Aberdeen or Maidenhead and you'd like to come and be part of the audience, put your questions as these people are here. Go to the Question Time website, follow the instructions, and hopefully we will see you there. OK, Orla Lenihan, where are you sitting? Lots and lots of people asked about this, so I'm very keen to make sure we get it in. Off you go.
Thank you. The NHS was proudly founded by a Welshman. How have we let it reach such a crisis point, and what must change in order to protect its future?
Right, well, listen, Huw, I'm going to come to you, because this has been on your watch. And it's not a good look, is it, for the NHS in Wales under Labour? Are you proud of it? Are you proud of that record?
The question was, what do we actually do about this? In the land that actually created the NHS, with Huw Irranca creating it, based on the Tredegar model, what do? We get on and we fix it. We really put not just the resource in and the money in, but the effort in to do it.
But you've had years to do that already.
And we hold health boards to account to do that. So if you look over the last 8 months, we have seen now the long-term waiting list fall month after month after month. It hasn't happened by accident. It's happened for 2 reasons. One is we have the money finally to actually invest in it and drive those waiting times down. But the second thing is, and credit to Jeremy Miles, the Health Secretary, for focusing on this, and Eluned Morgan as well, is to actually work on and sit on those health boards and say to them, this is your job, bring them down. But
listen, you can talk about waiting lists coming down. I can give you umpteen targets that you've missed and umpteen other aspects which are working much less favourably. For example, as of January this year, 5,200 what we call patient pathways. That's basically not everyone is a single patient, because sometimes people need more than one treatment. But 5,200 patient pathways in Wales are still waiting over 2 years. For comparison, in England, it's 200, even though the English population is about 20 times bigger. How is that okay?
That is not okay, and it's not acceptable. So what we need to do is keep...
Yes, but you've been in charge. This is a Welsh issue.
So if you're asking me what we do with it, so when we asked people about 18 months ago what it should be the focus on the NHS as the first priority, they said to us, bring waiting times down. There are too many people on orthopaedics, there are too many people waiting for cataracts, hips, eyes, etc. So we've invested in the Llantrisant Diagnostic Centre, the Prince of Wales, North Wales as well, to actually bring these down. And we're doing it, we're achieving it. So what Huw Irranca would now be saying is, get it fit for purpose again. And also, by the way, deal with things such as making sure that everybody can get an appointment in a GP surgery when they need to. Training the number of people that you need to actually come into it from the population here in Wales. Investing in the health estate as well. So we do that £4 billion for new hospitals as well.
Okay.
So are we satisfied? No, we're not. Are we turning it around now that we got the investment? Yes, we are. Is there more to do? A load more to do. But what I will not do is give up on the NHS. I will not say it is broken, we need to throw it away. I will not countenance the idea that we put this anything beyond Huw Irranca's original free at the point of delivery and not go to private health insurance models. We need to fix the NHS and keep relentlessly on it.
Dan.
So you mentioned that waiting lists have been coming down over the last 8 months. That's 40 months too late. You started to ramp it up just before as we came into an election, very cynically in my point of view. The Sloman report was published last year. It had 29 recommendations on how to alleviate some of the pressures across the NHS. We've had a government response. What we've not had is regular updates to the public, which they deserve, as to how progress is being made.
So what would reform do?
So reform would straight away, we would call an emergency action plan, based on the Sloman report, and we get all the health chiefs down to Cardiff, down to the government, and we would go through each health board, what the issues are, what support they need, what funding they might need, and we would free up that funding, for instance, by saving £9 million, immediately shut our overseas offices. That would free up £9 million to spend on extra nurses. There are other savings we could make quite quickly as well.
There's a record number of nurses now in the health service. We are training those nurses.
There are 1,000 vacancies across Wales, and nurse graduates are being told there's no jobs for them. Trained ambulance drivers are being told that they're going to have to look abroad for jobs. Huw, the NHS is on its knees. You've had 27 years to steer it, and it's on its knees. It's on your
You will not
watch.
do it.
I'm trying to explain my part. We're not going to cut anything in the NHS. We're trying to get funding, spend taxpayers' monies in Wales on the Welsh NHS. The other thing we would do, I've talked about the Sloman report. It's a good report. It's an independent report.
Actually, for those who aren't aware of the Sloman report, perhaps you just tell them.
Yeah, it's an independent report commissioned by the government because they didn't know what to do. The independent report, and it gave 29 recommendations from ambulance target time, handover times, right the way through to efficiency. And what that report reveals is the NHS in Wales, it doesn't have a funding problem. It has an efficiency, leadership and management problem. And that's something that we would focus on in reform, is holding those chief executives to account. We ideally want to work in partnership, absolutely, but we need to hold these executives to account. And then you've got the more long-term reform. 7 health boards across Wales is too much. The Sloman report talks about the variability of service across Wales, and that the best practice is not being followed across the health board. So we do need to have a more streamlined service in Wales as well. We could talk about this all night. I feel very strongly about it, and reform will protect the NHS, we'll keep it free at point of delivery, and we'll keep free prescriptions, despite what lies might be said by these politicians.
Jane, do you agree with any of that?
I think bringing it back to Ola's point, I'd just like to say it's the issue that's raised most on the doorsteps with me. People talk about they can't get a dentist, they can't get a GP appointment, and then you hear the terrible stories about people waiting hours for an ambulance. And that is absolutely unacceptable. I think it's 50% of the Welsh budget goes on the NHS, and we still are not getting the benefits that we should be having in a 21st century. The big issue for me, which I have mentioned, is about fixing social care. And if we can fix social care, potentially then we can help the front and the back door of our hospitals, because where we should be going is having those hospitals being places where we treat the sick. It's not where we keep healthy people who are ready to go home. So fixing social care will help the health service.
Lots of hands up. I'm going to go around quite a few of you and just get a flavour of what you're thinking. Yes, man there with ducks, Chet.
Yes, so in terms of asking the Labour man, in terms of, you talk about funding, and we're going to increase, revenue towards the NHS and things like that. I ask, where does that money come from? Because like incentivization for business is going down. Young people don't want to take the risk of business because taxes are so high. And Labour seems to increase taxes. So I'm going to ask, like, where does that come from? And if it comes from us, like, do you think that's, I guess, fair to the Welsh person?
OK, I'm going to go around lots of people, just so you know. Man at the very back there.
As a pharmacist working for the NHS, I do worry about the future for the pharmacy profession, because community pharmacy is the front door to the NHS, and yet funding does not reflect the cost of running a pharmacy. So I just want to know what the panel thinks and how they're going to reflect that in the future Senate.
OK, and let's hear, we heard from you right at the beginning of the programme. You're a student, medical student.
You mentioned waiting lists are actually finally coming down very slowly, I may add. That is only one metric that you can measure the NHS by. Anyone can take a walk around like hospitals, as I do, as I'm on my placements, and can see the many dangers that are happening. I've gone on ward rounds with patients waiting in corridors, often to their detriment, and that's not helping them in any way, while staff members are disillusioned and wanting to work away because it's more benefit to them.
And can I ask you, because as I understand it, the Royal College of Nurses, Nursing is saying that possibly up to half of nurses when they graduate will not get offered a job in the Welsh NHS. Paramedics are being told there are going to be no jobs and they should start looking abroad. For you, how confident are you that you will have a job in the NHS when you graduate?
I don't,
You're
particularly. I feel like I am secure for 2 years and then I'm on my own. And I really don't know what's going on after that.
Okay, I'm going to come to you all. But given that it's Labour in charge at the moment, how can it be, Huw, that when there are shortages, there are people waiting for treatment, that you've got paramedics being, and there's, trying to get an ambulance, according to the target times, that paramedics are not going to get a job. They're being told to look abroad. We are paying for these paramedics. Student nurses are being told, maybe half of you won't have a job either. How has it come to this?
So one of the things we were asked to do is to actually uplift the amount of people who are going through training, nurses, paramedics, and a range of others as well. That's why we've increased the school numbers and places. What we need to do is tie that up with the workforce planning so that you and others are actually going directly into jobs.
So why didn't you do it?
So there needs to be work with the health boards, but also the Royal Colleges as well, to make sure that you and others are going into those jobs. So there's been a recognition by them that that piece of the workforce planning, we're doing the commissioning, we're doing the training, we're getting more nurses in place, we're getting more paramedics and so on.
Jobs to go to.
So what we need to do now is line it up with the Royal Colleges and with the health boards to make sure that they are recruiting or that positions are coming fund. But can I just say as well, gentleman asked about the how can we afford to do this? Well, we had a £1.6 billion uplift from the UK government last year. That's enabled us to real focus heavily on it.
All
And the
right.
community pharmacy point is interesting because in Wales, we're leading the way here. We have community pharmacists who can now actually diagnose for minor ailments, prevent people going to GPs because they have real skills,
All
so
right.
they can do
Let me get the
diagnosis
rest
for
of the panel in.
28 minor
Rhun.
illnesses.
I'll come to you just a minute. Let me work my way around.
So, two things I wouldn't do. One, wouldn't let the NHS get sold off to the highest bidder, as reform undoubtedly would.
No, we would not.
Tell us what you mean by that, because I need to allow him to defend him.
Dan will say that that's not true, but everybody in this audience is aware of his boss saying on many occasions that he believes in an insurance-based system. And I watched a clip of Nigel Farage, his boss, again today, saying that he didn't believe in paying for the NHS out of general taxation. Dan, that means privatisation.
But not in Wales, because it comes from a block grant.
Listen.
That's the benefit of being part of the United Kingdom, actually.
Nigel Farage is the boss. We all know that, and if he wants it, that's what he would get. So nobody trusts
not in
reform.
Wales. I'm the
and
boss
the other thing
in
we
Wales,
wouldn't
actually.
do. You haven't.
I am. So
haven't
all devolved policy and reform is left to me, and we will get a block grant from the UK government. One of the benefits for remaining in the UK, and then we will fund the NHS through public funds. It is a red herring. It's a desperate lie from Plaid Cymru, who know that reform are the challenger in Wales.
Dan Thomas hasn't even got a democratic mandate within his own party.
Neither of you. None of your members voted for you, Rhun, actually. Oh, any of the party leaders here.
The other thing that the people of Wales won't trust again is Labour to run the NHS in Wales. And here we have, we should have Eluned Morgan here defending her record, but here we have her deputy saying that there are plans now to invest billions of pounds in hospitals. We'd all like new hospitals, but the dilapidation of the estate of the NHS in Wales, with £1 billion worth of backlog of works that needs to be done just to keep our hospitals in working order, has happened on Labour's watch.
Austerity.
And this is the truth of the matter. So we need a programme. So we need a programme. Plaid Cymru says 10 surgical hubs. Let's get them up and running. A workforce plan, including 100 new GPs, for out of hours in particular. Shifting resource towards primary care, which absolutely includes, and not just your doctor.
How are you going to afford all that?
Well, this is within the envelope that we have. We managed to get, for the budget in 2026-27, £180 million for the NHS in order to give the next government, I hope it'll be a Plaid Cymru government, at least a firm foundation on which to build. And we will allocate £100 million plus on top of that in this first year. So this is all accounted for within our plans. But it's the workforce plan. It's shifting to primary care, including pharmacy, not just your GP. It's about making sure that we tie in health and social care much better so that we build resilience for the long term and then start concentrating on the preventative, genuinely, to make us a healthier population.
Anthony.
I think we're seeing that problem again. Lots of figures, lots of admirable targets. Everyone in this room hasn't experienced that. I'm sure everyone in this room, like me, will have stories, and like people on this panel undoubtedly, of being failed by a workforce that goes, not being failed by the workforce, sorry, that goes above and beyond. But the system isn't working, and it still feels like sticking plasters. And yeah, absolutely.
So what would you do?
Well, we need to look at it. There's short terms and long terms. We need to move away, some focus and budget from secondary care into primary care, which will ease the backlog further down the line. So that's about moving...
I think everyone is saying that.
Yeah, well, it's about moving... Everyone's been saying that. We haven't been in that building. These people have. It's about bringing dentists and GPs into every community hubs, community pharmacists, absolutely. It's also about tackling the serious and immediate things. I mean, what would Nye Bevan think about corridor care? This gets brought up to me by the Royal College of Nurses over and over again. And one of the big problems with that, and that's going to be a difficult one to fix, but what makes it so hard to fix is no one's recording the data. And that's what the RCN want. They want it to be declared a never event, to have someone in a corridor for 24 hours. That way you start measuring the problem and you start fixing the problem, because those people, all of these bad health practices are causing serious health problems further down the line. So
how would you... Because clearly if you want to get rid of corridor care, who wouldn't want to get rid of corridor care? And everyone on this panel, I'm sure, would. You're going to need, I assume, more nurses, you need more beds, you need, once those patients get into the beds in the wards, more people to treat them in the wards. That's a lot of people. Yeah. How are you going to pay for all that? I mean, you're very critical of other people on the panel saying, well, they're coming out with these figures and they don't mean anything. What are your figures?
Well, You look at
How are you
this.
gonna pay for it?
This is one of those issues where you need the data, and we need to be speaking to the civil service and have that real-time data. But you start.
But if you don't have it,
you
how,
start with
how
you start
can you
with
have any
things.
idea you can even achieve
You
it?
start like things with stopping the reduction of beds. You get clinical staff working on the weekends. You start working on that backlog because it cannot be acceptable. This goes back to people saying, "Oh, you're idealist because you want to stop this terrible thing. It cannot continue. It's bad for patient safety, patient dignity. It's bad for staff
But
morale."
listen, nobody wants it to continue. But I'm just trying to get at a noble aspiration, no doubt, shared by I think everyone in this room. But isn't it pie in the sky if you've literally no idea how you're going to pay for it?
Well, you've got all those levers. We talked about the economic levers. We have to come back to those. You have to talk about being in a position to affect the income that Wales has, the revenue Wales has. But you don't park this problem. You start work on this problem now. Because, yes, you're right. No one on this table would say, "Oh, I'm happy with corridor care." But there are people on this table who've been in government. And it's got worse and worse and worse.
OK. Darren,
I think
what must change to protect the NHS's future? That's
well, look, the original question was, how did we get into this mess?
And also, what must we do?
So the reason the Welsh NHS is in such a mess is very simple. It's Labour, Plaid Cymru and the Liberal Democrats, because they are the parties that have been in power over the past 27 years, making policy decisions, settling budget deals, having cooperation agreements and coalition agreements that have chosen, at times, to disinvest in our NHS, and that's why we've ended up in the mess that we are currently in. It's a disgrace that people can't get a GP appointment, they can't get a dental appointment. When they phone for an ambulance, it doesn't turn up in time. When you get to the front door of an emergency department, you're in the emergency department sometimes for 3 days.
Knows how bad it is.
So
What
we
would
know
you
it's
do
horrific.
differently?
And the problem that people tell us that needs to be solved, and these are the health experts themselves, the Royal College of Emergency Medicine and the RCN and others, is that we need an increase in the number of beds in our NHS. So what would we do? We would pull the ripcord and declare a health emergency. We would surge the number of beds in our hospitals. We've seen the number of beds fall by a third over the past 27 years. We've seen the closure of community hospitals, left, right and centre, across Wales. We need to reopen the wards that have closed. We need to surge the number of beds in our hospitals. We need to re-establish the wards that are closed currently in community hospitals. And we need then to bring the staff in, that workforce that this young man is hoping to be part of, and that the brand new qualified nurses need to be part of, and the paramedics need to be part of, so that we can have an NHS that we can all be proud of.
And you're going to pay for all of that and still take a penny off the basic rate of income?
Absolutely we are, because you know what? If we don't have our healthcare, we have nothing. And we've got two priorities at this election, the Welsh Conservatives: fixing the NHS, because we need to fix that crisis, and developing our economy so we can have a more prosperous Wales with an increased tax take from that prosperity that we can then invest in our public services. Okay. So we've got to get to grips with this problem. It's not right, frankly, that people are being brought in from overseas to work in our NHS, yet we can't allow people here to work in our NHS. Right. You know, the Welsh government, brought people in from India, nurses in from India last year to work in the NHS, when we've got newly qualified nurses here that can't get jobs. That's not right.
Right. I apologise to all of you who got your hands up, because I know lots of you want to talk about this. I've got one more question, which again reflects something that so many of you wanted to raise. So I've got about 10 minutes. I'm going to try and get it in. So Helen Devereux, where are you? Off you go.
For young people, the outlook is bleak. Many consider leaving Wales to find jobs. How will you give young people hope again?
Now, this is something that we've got a fair amount of young people in the audience. Actually, can I just, of the young people in the audience here, stick your hand out if you've got something you want to say about this. Because, lots of you. Right, let's start with you. Let's start with you on this particular subject.
Yes. I just wanted to say as well that I find the demonisation of people on disability and on benefits quite disgusting, actually, because I have frequently tried for job occupation and stuff like that, and quite frequently I will be told that for whatever reason they can't make certain accommodations when it comes to the toilet, when it comes to accessing the workplace. So I find it quite scathing, really, when people will often say, well, let's just reduce the benefits, let's just reduce the disability. We've got a benefit state. When the reality is, many people on benefits want to be working, but they are not being allowed to work by these companies, and there needs to be more regulation of that and an acknowledgement of that as well.
And therefore, you're being the side of hope. glasses. Yes, there, yes, you. Yes, use the microphone's right over your head.
Oh, wow. I think that young people need someone to advocate for them, and I'm afraid the Labour Party's failed us because Cardiff University attempted to cut nursing courses last year, and the Labour Party in Wales declined to act. The First Minister didn't do anything, and we need better.
OK. There's a young woman there right in the middle, can you see, with glasses? And just in front, yeah.
Hi, and not to bring it back to the NHS, but I'm a student midwife in Wales, and we are currently worried about our jobs, which we thought were supposed to be secured, and that we were kind of promised these jobs. But additionally, there are people doing courses all over my university who are, well, they're graduating now and they have no job prospects.
Right, right, OK. And there's a man right at the very back in the far right. Yes, yes, you.
Yes, life is very bleak for young people at the minute, and all I'm hearing from the parties is talk and gestures about, you know, reducing the cost of transport or lowering energy bills a bit. What are you actually going to do to help young people get on the property ladder? My rent has nearly doubled since I moved to Cardiff 8 years ago. I've got no way of saving for a house. How am I supposed to start?
OK, and let me just take one more here. Yes, you said.
I'm a student, proud Welshman, but studied in England, and me, like many of my other members of the cohort, finding there's no opportunities, no grad schemes, no jobs, no future
here in Wales?
For people like me in Cardiff in Wales. And unfortunately, you know, I always get asked, why did you study in England? You got grants, tuition fees, tuition cuts, all these amazing perks studying in Wales, but ultimately there's not the opportunities, and we've seen countless thousands upon thousands of people having to leave, whether they graduate or if they leave for university in general. Ultimately, there's not the opportunities here.
Right, OK. I've got 8 minutes left, so you're going to be pretty brief. Anthony, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, just the things we're talking about, the cost of living crisis, they hit younger people the hardest. They're looking at a bleak future. That's why we're talking about things, to address your question. Freezing rents, taking that pressure off people. People are paying exorbitant rents for homes not fit for human habitation. It's about cutting bills, and it's about the free transport will help young people. These are all issues that affect people in their daily life. But what gives me hope, our party in the last few months in Wales has quadrupled in size, and the vast majority of those people are young people, keen activists who want to get out there and make the world a better place. They want hope, and that's what we're offering young people.
And how are you going to help them get jobs? I mean, looking at your manifesto, there's only 3 paragraphs on the economy.
Well,
it's one thing to give people things, but how are you going to create an economy that's going to provide jobs?
The economy runs through everything. So whether it's our offer on housing, building 60,000 social housing...
But what about creating jobs?
That creates jobs. The green industrial revolution, retrofitting people's homes, creates jobs. Community renewable energy creates jobs. There are lots of jobs that could be created if we start doing the right thing.
Dan.
This is a story very personal to me. I had to, fortunately, leave Wales for my career. I think Jane worked outside Wales for a long time as well. And I think it's really sad, 25 years later, young people are still saying the same thing in Wales, that if they want to go on and have a career and be successful, sadly, they might have to leave. Wales in London, an organisation in London, estimates there are 300,000 people living in Wales. That's 10%.
So what would you do? You're going to have to be brief then.
So
what would you do?
we need proper jobs. We've been pimping out Wales for low-pay, low-skilled jobs in Wales, thanks to Labour, and we need to bring big businesses in, and we need to encourage businesses to grow through the business rate scheme. And we need to say that Wales is open for business. We're going to unclog the M4 and our roads. CBI Wales says that traffic congestion on those roads is stopping investment and jobs. We need to open Wales for business and give people a future here in Wales.
Jane.
We need a Welsh industrial strategy. This is about growing our economy. It absolutely is. But we need to make sure that young people have a sense of Wales has a vision, something to absolutely keep them here. We have a school leavers guarantee which says that within 3 months of leaving school, every young person will have a plan to get a job, will have a plan for a placement or an education. That is about us actually locking in that young person to remain here in Wales. And can I just say this? I would like to hear from Plaid Cymru. What is your plan around grants for students who decide not to study in Wales? Because I think it's important that people do know what you're planning to say and do if you are in government for students who plan to study outside of Wales.
OK,
You answer that and the other question. You might as well answer that directly.
I'll answer that. I want to give our young people hope. You know, there was something
just
in the
answer that
question...
just primarily, and then I'll get you to answer the other one.
I'll try to keep it brief. Yeah. Currently, the situation is that we tell our young people, leave Wales to go to university, and we don't care if you come back or not. That is a big problem. Now, 2 of my own children have studied outside Wales. They've studied in England, so I've got no interest in stopping them from studying wherever they want in the world. But surely we need to be incentivising them to come back to work in Wales. There was something in the way you asked the question.
Will you cut the grants?
No, what we said is I want your support to build consensus around a new funding model, because our universities are being starved of funding. There's a £100 million black hole facing our universities.
So you won't be cutting the student grants?
No, there is no plan. We want to build a consensus.
No,
there is no policy. That's what you say. Can we address that?
Let him answer just for a minute. Let him answer just for a minute.
Are you going to allow young people to study anywhere they want to in the right course that they want to?
Correct. As my children did, yes. But I want to incentivise them. If they can study in Wales, we want to incentivise them. If they leave Wales, I want them to come back. And I want to bring in new talent as well to work in Wales to feed our economy. The fundamental question. There was something in the despair with which you asked that question, Helen, that really struck a chord with me. And it made me think, we've had years of the stoking of division around immigration by Reform and the Conservatives, pandered to by Labour, when the real problem that we face is the outward migration of our young people. We need to give our young people hope. So on housing, protecting renters, on having a skills audit to make sure there are pathways into work, on having our National Development Agency for Wales to create good jobs in all parts of Wales. These are the measures that we need to put in place, and Plaid Cymru is determined to, because we need to give our young people a country they can believe in and show that we believe in them.
Yeah, look, the Welsh Conservatives want to get the Welsh economy moving. We want to get the Welsh economy growing. And that's why we believe that we need to invest in our transport infrastructure, like getting that M4 Relief Road done, upgrading the A55 and the other key artery in West Wales, the A40, because we know that roads lead to prosperity. We know that tax cuts lead to prosperity as well. We know that if you get small firms to be able to take on 1 extra person, you can solve the unemployment problem in Wales overnight. So how do you get them to do that? You've got to be able to help them through the business rates regime, and we want to help you to realise your ambition of being able to own your own home. You know, it's all right talking about rent controls all of the time. Most people don't want to pay rent. They want the keys to their own front door. I can remember.
They want a home,
I can remember the first time I took the keys to my own front door and opened it. It was a magic moment in my life, and I want other people to have that opportunity too. That's why we will scrap stamp duty for people's main homes. That will fire up our economy, because every time a house is sold, you can activate all of that spending in the economy. The painters, the plumbers, the carpet fitters, the tilers, the bathroom fitters. All of that is a virtuous cycle that will help our economy to create jobs, well-paid jobs, that people can get employed in.
Huw, how will you give young people hope again? You've had quite a lot of time to do it, but it sounds from Helen that she's not got much hope. Indeed. So how can you give her hope now?
So we will continue on the housing. We will continue the Help to Buy scheme, which enables people, particularly who are first-time buyers, to get onto the housing ladder, gives them that opportunity. But we also need to build more homes as well. So we will commit to building, over a 10-year programme, 100,000 new homes, of which 40,000 will actually be affordable social rental homes as well, because not everybody will buy a new home. We also need more affordable rental accommodation of a very good standard as well. But the other point is getting people to come back here. We will not limit where people's aspirations take them. I studied away and came back. My 3 children studied away and came back and are working here in Wales. But the jobs we need to be in is looking to the future as well. We have in the South East Wales strip an incredible advantage in cybersecurity, AI technology. It's going to be one of the AI growth zones. It's based around the strengths of Cardiff and Swansea University, who are supplying those graduates into it. We also have a massive, not to forget as well, defence industry in Wales as well, which some parties here do not seem to be as committed to. But we have 7,000 jobs within that, and they're well-paid jobs. The other thing is simply to say as well, we also just confirmed a major ports investment in Port Talbot. The battering that Port Talbot has had in recent years, that will be the port. That will be the port that will actually service the offshore renewables. That will be the depot.
Huw,
62 million.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to draw you to a close. Forgive me, because we're actually out of time. We've slightly run over, in fact. I want to come back to you, Helen, see what you thought of that, but I'm afraid I'm not able to. Maybe I'll grab you after the programme. But for now, our hour is up. Thank you very much to the panel. It was, you managed to get all your points in, even though there's a lot of you, but we want to hear what you had to say. And thank you very much to the audience as well. We had lots from you, which I'm thrilled about. Thank you at home for watching. Of course, remember we're in Aberdeen next week. But for now, from Question Time in Cardiff, bye-bye.